Hello, everyone. Welcome to the resume review simulation session as part of eFest Careers 2020 in our job hunting track. We're going to get started in just a minute or two here, but while you're joining us, this session is going to have a lot of interactive elements as we go through an actual resume review process, and you'll get to make some predictions on different resumes. So to test that out, what I'd like to invite you to do is to actually answer this poll. Okay, it looks like we're getting a little over 50 responses so far. We're coalescing on some themes of standing out from the competition. Seems to be the number one concern, but also getting an actual interview from a hiring manager seems to be the number two concern. And getting past the bots or the algorithms seems to be the number three concern. So we've got about 65 responses so far. So good. We wanted you to, get some experience using this tool. We're going to be using it throughout the session a little bit later today. So just in terms of how this session will be structured, we're going to give you an overview of the different key parts of the process when looking at resumes and evaluations. And then we're actually going to do some simulations. And this is where you'll get to use this interactive tool again. We're going to walk through some sample job descriptions, sample resumes, and you're going to make predictions on the resumes in terms of whether the resumes will get past the bots, whether they'll get past human resources, whether they'll get past the hiring manager and get all the way to an interview. So why don't we go ahead and get started? So just with some quick introductions, my name is Anand Sevapathy. I'm going to be the moderator for your session here today. I'm part of the ASME staff. I serve as ASME's Managing Director of Programs, which includes all of our student and early career programs, including eFest. So really excited to have you all here today. I have over 20 plus years of experience in nonprofit, corporate social responsibility, technology, and workforce development. I did my undergraduate at NYU and did an MBA at Yale University. And next, I'd like to turn it over to Monisha to introduce herself.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Monisha Nag, and I'm the head of People Analytics at Staples, where I'm in charge of all HR reporting and analytics. Prior to this, I worked in organizational consulting for several years at McKinsey and other firms. And although I've been in HR for several years and I have a PhD in org psychology, I actually started my career as an engineer, just like you all. So welcome to the session.
Great, thank you, Monisha. Monisha is going to be serving as our expert on applicant tracking systems and algorithms in this session. Next, let me turn it over to Leah to introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Leah Koutros, and I'm an HR manager at ASME, where I've been for the last 4 years. I have a total of 15 years of human resources experience with a specialization in talent acquisition, focusing on recruitment and onboarding. Throughout my career, I've worked with small and mid-sized organizations and have gained experience across different areas within HR, including process and policy development, compliance, employee relations, performance management, and I earned my bachelor's degree in business administration from Iona College.
Thank you, Leah. So Leah's going to be playing our expert perspective on human resources in this session. And next, let me turn it over to Andy.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Andy Bikos. I'm retired from Boeing. I spent 30 plus years at Boeing with more than 20 years as a manager and executive in engineering. I'm on the ASME Board of Governors currently, and am a former ASME Congressional Fellow. I have my bachelor's and MBA from UCLA and engineering graduate degrees from Stanford. Welcome.
Great, thank you, Andy. And Andy's going to be providing the perspective of a hiring manager throughout our session today. So with that, let's dive in and talk about the overall process. So we wanted to start with just a framing of how this whole process of working through applying to a job actually works. So everything starts at the at the top here with the ATS or algorithm. So normally you apply for a job through a system, and that system may have different filters or an artificial intelligence. The whole process, you can think of it as a funnel process, right? So we start with a large number of candidates in the first step. Then it gets to human resources. Human resources leverages the ATS and algorithms to prioritize candidates. They send a prioritized list of candidates over to the hiring manager. The hiring manager then prioritizes certain candidates that they want to interview. A small subset of candidates are interviewed, and then ultimately the top candidate is made an offer. The top and bottom of this funnel can look totally different, right? You may see a process where there's only 10 applicants for a role. You may see another kind of process where there's 1,000 or more applicants for a role, but maybe they make 100 offers. So the competitiveness of a specific job opportunity will really depend on both what the top variable and the bottom variable are in terms of the number of people applying and the number of offers that will be made. So now that you understand kind of the overall funnel, we're going to dive in first and take a look at the ATS and algorithms portion of the funnel. So I'm going to turn it over to Monisha to walk us through the ATS.
Thanks, Anand. So as you all know, ATS stands for Applicants Tracking System, and you know that this is the online system through which you apply to jobs. But it is important to understand what all an ATS does and how it works, so you can best use it to your advantage when you're applying for jobs. So first, an ATS acts as a database of all applicants and all applications to current and past positions at a company. So if you have ever applied for a job at a company, the ATS will have all your profile information and details such as what positions you applied to, whether or not you got an interview, whether or not you got an offer, and so on. So, and this information is accessible to all the recruiters within a company. Second, an ATS has a built-in intelligence to narrow down applicants that are the best fit for a job. But keep in mind that an ATS can also match applicants or candidates to jobs they didn't apply to. And any recruiter at a company can search the ATS to find qualifying candidates for a position they're trying to fill. So whenever you apply for a job, fill in your profile completely and don't over-engineer your resume to match only the one job that you're applying to. Finally, an ATS also helps recruiters keep track of candidates and their application status throughout the hiring process. So if you choose to receive alerts, you might be notified that your application is under review or that your interview is being scheduled. And similarly, an ATS can also send you alerts for positions similar to the ones you're applying for. So even if you miss one opportunity, if it's a company you really like, you can sign up for alerts and you'll get a chance to apply to other positions that you might be interested in. All right, so now that we know the role of the ATS in the hiring process and the importance of making your resume ATS friendly, the question is, how do you do this? So first, read the job description thoroughly. What are the day-to-day tasks and responsibilities of the position? What skills and experiences are required or preferred? What qualities are the hiring manager looking for, like ability to work in teams, managing multiple priorities, communication skills, and so on. So read that well. Then customize your resume based on this information. Most importantly, make sure that you have a skills section that lists all the specific skills that the job requires. But besides this, make sure that your resume reflects all the experiences, qualifications, and qualities that are specified through your coursework, your projects, your internships throughout your resume. So this will maximize your chances that the ATS will consider you a good match for the position and rank you high in the list of applicants. So you have a better chance of being selected by HR to be advanced to the next step, which is to the hiring manager. So now let's look at some specific pieces of information that an ATS typically asks you for. So first, obviously, is your customized resume and perhaps your cover letter. The cover letter may be optional, but some hiring managers do read them. So if you do upload a cover letter, make sure it's customized. Make sure you express why you're looking for this role in your cover letter. So the ATS then parses this information and automatically populates some of the general questions related to education and work experience. So make sure that the parsing is done correctly and edit any text if necessary. Then you might also see some questions related to location or travel preferences, work authorization, salary requirements, and so on. So make sure you fill all these fields as best as you can, because the ATS uses these criteria to rank you for the job. In addition to these, you might see some questions that are specific to the job that you're applying for. So perhaps the hiring manager wants to know how much experience you've had with AutoCAD or a certain programming language. So make sure you answer these questions, as these are sure to factor in when it comes to a decision on whom to interview. The ATS then compares the contents of your resume and all this other information that you've entered to the criteria that are set by the hiring manager, and then ranks the candidates based on the degree of match. So think of it similar to a search engine. Just as you Google and enter a search term, similarly, when Google returns the results, it ranks the results based on how well it matches to the search criteria you entered. So remember that an ATS can match you not just to the job you're applying to, but to other jobs as well. So again, don't over-engineer your resume to fit the one job that you're applying to. It might hurt your chances of being matched to other jobs at the company that you might be interested in. Then finally, next slide. Finally, I want to leave you with some do's and don'ts, some best practices when it comes to your CVs. So do read the job description thoroughly and customize your resume. Don't submit a generic resume. Do add a skill section with relevant relevant keywords, and mirror the keywords throughout your resume. Don't rely on hidden text. The ATS will ignore them, and a recruiter or hiring manager certainly will. Do use standard language such as skills and experience. Don't use acronyms. The ATS does not understand these. So say mechanical engineering rather than ME. Use a machine readable format such as a Word doc, or if you're using a PDF, make sure it's text searchable. Don't use images or diagrams or formatting such as tables or multiple columns. Typically, the ATS might have trouble parsing these. And don't apply to 20, 30 roles at a company. Remember that all the information in your ATS is visible to recruiters at the company. The ATS typically just ranks candidates based on match, but if there is a filtering criteria such as GPS, the ATS might use that to filter candidates out. But it is something that the hiring manager will set, not something that the ATS automatically does. And finally, remember, it's not just the ATS. The ATS is not the ultimate decision maker. The recruiter plays a big role. That person is the gatekeeper to which resumes get selected to then put in front of the hiring manager. So remember all these tips, and good luck in your job search.
Thank you, Manisha. Next, we're going to go to Leah, to talk about human resources and the human resources perspective on this. Leah?
Thank you, Anand. As Anand indicated, I will be speaking with you about HR's role in the resume review process, which is the center track highlighted on the screen. Once your resume is submitted to an online job posting, there is a rigorous process that takes place behind the scenes. At some organizations, the first step, as Monisha mentioned, involves an applicant tracking system. While applicant tracking systems can vary, some can be designed to filter resumes, possibly by using artificial intelligence and knockout questions, thus providing a preliminary candidate pool. Then, in most organizations, a real person in human resources steps in. This is often a recruiter. The recruiter's role is to ensure that only the resumes of the most qualified candidates are ultimately presented to a hiring manager. As such, the recruiter can leverage the sorting and filtering functions of the applicant tracking system to prioritize which candidates to review, and may also apply knockout style questions as part of that process. Once the recruiter reviews the preliminary candidate pool that was generated with the assistance of an ATS, they will then eliminate those resumes that do not meet the minimum requirements of the role. From there, they refine the candidates to identify the most qualified and refer those resumes to the hiring manager. Next slide. So you're probably wondering, how are the resumes of the most qualified candidates identified? There are three key factors that a recruiter evaluates when reviewing a resume: a candidate's qualifications, the presentation of the resume, and a candidate's engagement. We'll discuss each of these factors individually in the upcoming slides. Since artificial intelligence alone may not identify the most qualified candidates, as HR professionals, there are certain criteria we look for in order to determine if a candidate is qualified for an available position. The first step is to determine if the candidate meets the minimum requirements of the role. So that means, does the candidate's educational background meet the requirements? Has the candidate acquired and demonstrated the skills and experiences outlined in the job description? And are there any preferred skills the candidate listed that would rank them above other candidates? It's also important to highlight relevant coursework, technical skills, and competencies in your resume. Next slide. Once we have determined a candidate has met the minimum skills requirement, we then review their resume for accuracy and make note of the overall presentation. For example, does the candidate have effective written communication skills? Has the candidate presented his or her experience in a logical manner? Is the format of the resume professional? And did the candidate proofread the document so there are no typos or grammatical errors? And do I, as a recruiter, understand the message that the candidate is trying to convey? Next slide. After reviewing basic requirements and presentation of the resume, we look to see what type of community involvement and engagement skills a candidate possesses. So for example, has the candidate been involved in their campus or local community? Has the candidate demonstrated collaboration through involvement in any clubs or activities, projects, or research? Furthermore, can the candidate balance and prioritize these multiple responsibilities and manage their time effectively? Has the candidate shown any leadership skills at all? And does the candidate's involvement and experiences align with the organization's values? It's also important to note here that it's quality versus quantity sometimes, so be sure to pick the experiences that are most relevant. You don't need to list all of them. Next. Now, I'd like to take a step back for a moment and discuss what to do with your resume once you have drafted it, but before you submit it to a job opening. First, review your resume for content and accuracy. Then, share it with others to seek feedback. Others should include a diverse group of fellow students, professors, former supervisors, current mechanical engineering professionals, your career services department, or your alumni network. And as always, continue to find new sources of feedback. This will help you build your professional network, which can lead to potential referrals in the future. So before you actually submit your job application, take a look at the company's website and ask yourself, does their values and their mission align with your own? Then carefully review the job description of the role for which you are applying to. Determine if you need to edit your resume to better reflect key requirements of the position at that point. And lastly, I'd like to leave you with some additional insights. If an organization is requesting a cover letter, make sure it's specific to the role you are applying to. And once you've interviewed for a position, a thank you note can go a long way. It shows appreciation for the time spent, as well as your continued interest in the role. And follow-up is key. Be sure to touch base with your HR contact if you haven't heard back from the organization after you have interviewed. So this concludes my portion of the presentation. So I will turn it back over to you, Anand.
Thank you, Leah. Thank you for giving us a fantastic overview of how human resources looks at the resume process. Next, I'm going to turn it over to Andy to talk about the hiring manager perspective.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So as a hiring manager, my role is to look at the whole candidate pool of the resumes that I've received from HR, kind of refine it, whittle it down, and the whole purpose is to decide who we should begin interviewing. So if you go to the next chart, so for new hire positions, I can get up to 50 resumes, from HR, which is quite a lot to go through. They can be for one or even more positions. For more senior positions, it can come down to as few as 5, but the process is usually always the same. And what I would do is, in my process, I would quickly look over each of the resumes, especially if there's 50, I would kind of look for some high level information. And so one of the things would be, will this person add to the diversity of my team? Because, in my experience, a diverse team is a higher performing team. So we definitely want that. Will this person be able to contribute quickly and immediately and in a significant way? Does the person fit with the company culture? And will they fit with the team I'm on? So that's important too, fitting, with the culture. And then finally on this, does the person have an interest in what the company does? At Boeing, when I was interviewing people, it was very important to see if they had an interest in aerospace. Have they shown, an interest in airplanes or space, through their past activities. So that is important because we're looking for not just qualified people that can contribute, can add diversity, but that are interested in what the company does. So as I would go through these high level themes, it would allow me to sort of sort the resumes in kind of a priority order for going through and doing a more detailed read of the resumes so that I can pick out the ones that I want to interview. So go to the next chart, please. So as I read through the resumes for the details that will tell me if I should interview this person, it helps a lot to have the resume organized so that I can find information easily. And so it's important that you customize your resume to the job description. And this demonstrates that, one, you read the job description, and two, allows me to more easily see how you match up. Now, as you heard before, you don't want to over customize, but if you're really applying to specific jobs that are in this category, I mean, the more it shows that you're aligned with the job, the better it is. If you want to apply or have your resume considered for other jobs, you want to broaden it a little bit, but you've got to be very careful on how you balance that. So also have an objective that mirrors the job description, so that, at this level, at least, I can see that your objectives align with my objectives and the company objectives and with what the job is requiring. It's also important then to clearly highlight your relevant skills and experience so that I can see again, how well your skills and experience align with the job. And finally, it's important that you highlight your achievements in leadership, whether in your senior capstone project, in some outside extracurricular activity, or in previous jobs. It's important to not just say you have certain skills, but to show that you've gotten achievements by applying those skills. So I think those are the things that I look for. And I just want to say thank you for your time and good luck.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you for providing that thoughtful overview of the hiring manager's perspective. So next, we're actually going to go to the interactive portion of this session. So I'd like you all to be ready. So I just want to go over how the simulation will work. First, we're going to go through a sample job description for an entry-level mechanical engineering job. After that, we're going to go through a few different sample resumes. And then you're going to vote on each resume as we go through them. And you're going to predict how well the resume will do against the job description. Will the resume make it past the algorithms? Will the resume make it past human resources? Will the resume get to Andy for a hiring manager review? And would a hiring manager select that resume for a potential interview? After you vote on each resume, We're going to go back to our experts, and they're going to tell us how they think the resume would have fared. So with that, let's go ahead and get started with our first sample job description. Okay, so this is an entry-level mechanical engineering role, full-time, based out of Newark, New Jersey. The job description is to provide mechanical engineering support for both new product development activities as well as factory support of existing products, to translate product requirements into a mechanical specification and test plan to be used for development, to execute verification testing as defined by the mechanical specification and test plan, to conduct design analysis and testing, both structural and thermal, to prove design will meet customer requirements, work directly with mechanical designers on CAD models and part documentation, assist in the evaluation and troubleshooting of products, and to conduct reliability analysis. There are certain requirements for this job description. So the qualifications are a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering or equivalent, a GPA, grade point average of 3.0 or higher, the ability to read and understand designs and schematics, working knowledge of AutoCAD, Microsoft Office, Microsoft Excel, experience with SolidWorks, SimSolid, or Solid Edge to design, evaluate, and document products. There's also some preferred skills, such as FEA, tools exposure, ability to read schematics, ability to build and design, ability to thrive in an environment where you have multiple concurrent design projects, strong interpersonal skills, the ability to work independently, and excellent written and verbal communication skills. So that's our job description. Now we're going to go take a look at some resumes, and you're going to make a prediction about how well this resume would do against this job description that we just went over. So let's go ahead and look at our first resume. So our first resume is from Tina. Tina is a mechanical engineer. Her objective is to secure an entry-level mechanical engineering position. She is a senior at Texas A&M. She does have some experience. She worked as an outreach ambassador on campus where she helped new students with tours and supporting freshman orientation. She also has a prior experience as a renewable energy intern where she researched and analyzed wind energy impacts. She generated and managed a database of 36,000 entries. Mostly that was done in Excel. She has some honors and activities, including serving as the vice president of SWE and serving as the SDC team lead for ASME. She has some skills in her skills section below with Microsoft Excel, with social media management, AutoCAD, and MATLAB. And on her education here, she is expected to graduate here in May of 2021 with her bachelor's in mechanical engineering. So now we're going to turn it over to you. So how do you think Tina's resume will fare against the job description that we reviewed together? So I'll give you, about 30 seconds or so to go ahead and respond to this. Again, if you're new to voting, you just need to go to menti.com on your phone, and you can type in the code 7466307 to put in a vote. And so the question we're asking is, how far do you think Tina's resume will get in this process? Will the resume get past the ATS or not get past the ATS? Will the resume get to HR but not get past HR? Will the resume get past HR but not be selected for an interview? Or will the resume get all the way to the hiring manager and be selected for an interview? So we'll give you just another few seconds here to respond. I think we're starting to see a bit of a spread here, but I think most of you are responding saying that you don't think the resume will get past the applicant tracking system. So let's go ahead and hear from our expert. So Monisha, I'm going to bring you in. Can you tell us how this resume would have done?
Yes, this resume will not get past ATS, unfortunately. So as you can see, Tina has a visually appealing resume, but the content is limited. She has some details about her internship, but hasn't really used any keywords from the job description. She has not outlined any relevant coursework or projects, nor does she specify her GPA. Also, her skills section is a bar graph, and there's some text in a table that the ATS might not be able to parse. So Tina's resume is not likely to get past the ATS. It won't be ranked very highly, which means that most likely the HR manager will not take a look at it.
Thank you, Manisha. Thanks for giving us that perspective on it. So why don't we go ahead and look at our next sample resume. So our next resume is from Annika. Annika is soon to graduate in mechanical engineering from Penn State University. And Annika is seeking a mechanical, entry-level mechanical engineering position. She's got some different key skills, including Solid Edge, SimSolid, AutoCAD, and SolidWorks. She's worked as a machinist and welder and has excellent communication skills. She's at Penn State University and joined Penn State University in 2017. And she has is pursuing a Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering with a 2.97 GPA. She's got a lot of courses listed from her coursework, including statics, dynamics, engineering and analysis, materials, fluid mechanics, and more. She's also worked on senior design projects, which are in progress, and has worked in the engineering department. And she has a lot of technical skills listed. Again, SimSolid, Solid Edge, AutoCAD, SolidWorks, Project, Excel, Word, PowerPoint. Also experience with machining and welding tools, mills, lathes. And she has work experience as well. Since 2015 till the present time, she's worked as a machinist and welding contractor and has a strong reputation in that space. So how do you all think Annika's resume will fare? So again, you can go to menti.com and put in 7466307 to vote. And do you think Annika's resume will get past the ATS? Do you think it will get to HR but won't get past HR? That it will get past HR to the hiring manager but won't be selected for an interview, or will get all the way to the hiring manager and also be selected for an interview? So we'll give you just a few more minutes to vote. I think almost all of our audience has voted. All right, we're getting above 70-ish votes here. Let's just give it another, still seeing a flurry of votes coming in. So okay, I think we're at our max here. So it sounds like the bulk of you believe that the resume will get to HR, but won't get past HR. So Leah, why don't I bring you in and you can tell us a little bit about how this resume would have fared.
So it is correct. This resume would not get past HR. While there's good use of keywords, which will rank the resume highly on the ATS system, you'll see that there are some mistakes and typos listed within. This is a good situation where Annika could have benefited by having someone review her resume before submitting it to a job opening. You'll see at the top that there are spelling mistakes and typos, poor formatting and use of case-sensitive lettering, poor grammar or typos. There's also an uncertain graduation date, and the GPA listed is below the threshold that is required in the job description. So this would not get past HR.
Thanks, Leah. Thanks for giving us that analysis on this resume. Okay, let's take a look at the next resume. This resume is from Dahlia. Dahlia has an objective to secure a full-time entry-level mechanical engineering role where she can build upon her design and simulation experience to support new product development and testing. She is at the NYU Tandon School of Engineering in Brooklyn, New York. She's pursuing a Bachelor's of Science in Mechanical Engineering, expected to graduate in May of 2021. She has a double major in biomedical, also has an overall GPA of 3.5 out of 4. Has some relevant work experience at Acme Company as an engineering intern in Princeton, New Jersey in the summer of 2020, where she supported product development teams with design and simulation, where she leveraged modeling and simulation software such as SimSolid, Solid Edge, and SolidWorks to support projects. She also received an Employee of the Month recognition for completing a project a couple of weeks ahead of schedule. She's worked on a lot of projects, including the ASME IM3D competition, where she served as a team lead. She also leveraged a lot of different technologies in that project, including SimSolid, SimLab, and HyperWorks. She has additional experience with the temperature controlled shipping unit, where she has some experience with FEA. She also has some relevant coursework that she's listed, although it's a little bit more sparse. Her leadership, she's the vice president of Chicago Beta Pi. She also has additional experience beyond the experience she highlighted earlier in her resume as a NYU tandem desk attendant. She's got a skills section listed where she lists out different skills, including SolidWorks, Excel, SimSolid, HyperWorks. She has some experiences with mills, lathes, drill presses, and bandsaws, speaks multiple languages. And in her activities and honors, she is on the women's track and field team, is a part of the American Society of Mechanical Engineers, where she's the student section president. So how do we think Dahlia's resume will fare? Again, you can go to mentee.com and use 7466307 to vote. Do you think Dahlia's resume will get past the ATS, get past HR, get to the hiring manager, be selected for the hiring manager for an interview? So it's very clear that you all really believe in Dahlia's resume. We're seeing a lot of votes on the top end here that Dahlia's resume will be selected by the hiring manager for an interview. So I'm going to turn this over to Andy to tell us how this resume would have fared.
So yeah, so I definitely think that this would rank very highly and most likely get an interview. I mean, it has good formatting, lots of information. The objective matches the job description. There's, the GPA is great. It's, the graduation date is clearly stated. So we know she's ready to go to work. The good use of keywords throughout, relevant experience, highlighting the skills. Her leadership experience is called out with her academic achievements, and the skills section has some matching words. The only thing that, if this was a very competitive group that she was part of, I mean, I would have wanted to look at a little bit more in, her calling out structural analysis and design as well as thermal. You can see that some of that might be embedded in here, but calling it out specifically might make this a little bit stronger. But I think definitely she would likely get an interview.
Great, thank you, Andy. So we've got a little bit of time. So what I'd like to do at this point in time is to actually open it up for some questions. So there's a lot of questions coming in on the chat panel. I think we're not going to be able to answer this many in the 5 minutes that we have left. But Leah, there's one question coming in for you that I think is relatively interesting. And the question is around the importance of referrals. Does it help for a resume to get advanced through the process if an existing employee at the company puts in a referral for an applicant?
It certainly does help. I think that, as I mentioned earlier, it's important to grow your network, because a lot of the times that's where you hear about new positions that are opening up. So it's important to kind of keep those relationships. And, we as an organization, we value our talent that are here. So if they recommend or refer an individual, we certainly will take that highly into consideration.
That's great. We have another question, and I'm going to turn this one over to Monisha. Do you find adding skills, additional activities, hobby, interests helpful for a resume to stand out?
Yes, definitely, if they are relevant to the job, for sure. And it's a good way to show, sort of who you are, like your rounded set of skills and experiences. So it definitely does help.
Great. Leah, we're getting a lot of questions around the topic of resume length. Does a resume have to be 1 page, or can it be more than a page?
I think it can be 2 pages depending on the length of experience that you have. We certainly like to limit it to 1 to 2 pages because you have to take into consideration, if we're reviewing hundreds of resumes at a time, it's better to be as succinct as possible.
That's great. Andy, we've got a question for you. In a very, very highly competitive applicant process, what makes the difference? What are those X factors that you look for when you decide who you're going to interview or not interview?
Yeah, so in a very highly competitive environment, again, most people will be qualified. So then you start looking for, will they fit with, the company's culture, are they well-rounded? Those are the kinds of things. And then looking at leadership and what is their long-range potential as demonstrated by their potentially extracurricular activities, their hands-on experience. Like one of the resumes talked about that, they had welding experience. They had a good reputation as a welder and things like that. So some of these, mechanical skills that aren't necessarily taught in engineering schools, things like that might help you stand out. And then finally, is there an interest in, what the company does? So a lot of times when we were looking at resumes, were these people involved with things like, helping kids with model rockets, right? Things like that, things that, are experiences that, are not necessarily requirements for the job, but show that you have a passion for what you're doing that aligns with what the company is doing. So those kinds of things help you stand out in a competitive environment.
Great. Monisha, we've got a more technical question for you. The question is about Word versus PDF, and is it okay to use a PDF document?
Yes, it definitely is okay to use a PDF. It actually preserves your formatting well. But if you do use a PDF, make sure that it's text searchable and not saved as a picture, JPG or what have you, because remember the ATS needs to parse the information that's on your resume.
Great. Leah, I'm going to ask this question of you. It's a question about someone who has a lot of extracurricular activities but doesn't have much actual work experience. And the question is, what can they do to make sure that they stand out and get a chance to get to an interview?
I think it's best if you highlight those extracurricular activities and the skill set that you acquired by participating in those extracurricular activities. Not everyone's going to have a lengthy career prior to graduating, so it's definitely important to highlight all of those skills and experiences that you've obtained outside of a regular job.
Great. And Andy, I'm going to put the last question over to you. The question is, should I include a cover letter? And if I do, what is the most important thing I need to include in my cover letter?
Yeah, so with these automated systems now, in the last few years, I never get cover letters, but I used to find them very helpful. If a cover letter will be included, it really shows communication skills much more than a resume does. That you can write well, that you can, be succinct and concise and convey your message well. When I was actually applying for jobs out of college, one of the interviews I got was based on my cover letter, because in those days, the guy told me that he never got a cover letter that showed that you could write good English, and that, mine was no typos. It was very concise and to the point. So I think that is important. If you do a cover letter, show and you can show that you've got great skills in terms of communication, do it.
Great, thank you, Andy. Next, I would suggest that you can go over to the robotics panel that's happening in the hot industries track that's starting right now. But I also wanted to put out a quick call that we're going to have a lot more interactive sessions in this job hunting track. Later today, there will be an interview simulation at 11:45 a.m. where you can direct how the interviewee responds to the interviewer. And then we'll have a session with LinkedIn later today. So let me close out by just thanking Andy, Leah, and Monisha. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing all of your insights with our audience today.
Thank you.
Great,
Thanks,
thank you.
everyone. All right, have a great one and enjoy the rest of eFest Careers 2020.